Hello and welcome to this week's episode of Chaile Time. Toby, welcome.
Welcome, Chaile. Morning.
How are you?
No, I'm very well. You know, what we must actually do is one day post all the nonsense we talk before we do
Yeah, it must be on record. Ne?
The people must be here, take the coffee here because yes, we can talk nonsense.
So today is D-Day. Our friend Ramaphosa is meeting the Makulubas there.
Makulubas there in America.
Yes.
Hey, man, yes, I'm holding thumbs, eh? Fingers crossed, I say.
But Juju is feeling otherwise.
Next topic. Who cares what Juju say, man? Eh? Our president is in America fighting for us now. And we must now support him. Didn't you say things like Juju said he mustn't come back?
Yeah.
No, he must come and you need to negotiate with the world.
Juju said the man is going to embarrass us there because he's going to be begging.
You can't shut yourself out of the world. It's a global village. We all need to engage with one another. That's what our president is doing. He's fighting for us. I don't know how it's going to look like because Trump,
How?
Hey? Listen, there's a problem here. Let's just put my truckie back.
There's a problem with Trump.
Editors, my truckie must come here. Anyway, so now, look, I'm trusting it will go well. I trust, but I'm nervous, so we'll see. We'll probably see by tonight.
I don't want the Zelensky situation. It's Zelensky, Vladimir Zelensky.
I don't think it will. Our president's got, Zelensky, he's like thin and he looks very timid, Like the guy who's blow over or something, but not Ramaphosa. He's a boer. He's a farmer.
Yeah, Uncle. He's farming Uncle cattle.
And you know what? He's rich.
Yeah.
And that language Trump understands. Wealth, money.
Now, what if they say do away with BEE and then now we're going to have Stalin coming into the country? Because that's what the other boss in a mask wants.
I think people must look at our latest TikTok release. Because this South Africa is going to toy. South Africa will be on fire if we let BE go. Hey?
We'll see.
But anyway, not want to delve in it, but I think some form of BE must always, not always, but it must stay. I mean, but my view on BE is obviously completely different, but not about that today.
Because you are involved too much with BEE, Amos. Too much. Do you still consult on BEE?
Yeah, no, we consult. Yeah, we do a lot of BE for companies. But you see, the thing is, for me, BE is about developing the actual communities that are disadvantaged. Let me put it straight, Chaile. You don't need BE. Seriously?
What do you mean?
You're a professional.
Oh, okay.
I mean, you're not poor. You're a professional. You're skilled. You're brilliant in what you do. Why do you need BE? Why do I need BE? White EE. We don't need it anymore. You see?
WEE.
But then again, why does poor black people need BE? They don't need BE either, just as much as a poor white person doesn't need BE. But what we need, in my view now, is poor communities. So if we have all this money, every year I get funds from our clients and I just simply sign checks. If you're a black friend of mine, I give you 50,000 Rand once a year. I just do it for BE points. But I'm saying we need to take all that money and put it in Shoshongui. Go build a school.
Okay.
Go build a library.
I think we deviated.
Yeah, but you're getting me stirred up now, Chaile.
No. I just wanted to hear you.
See,
I think we must have a full episode.
We must have a full. You know what? Next Chaile Time is just BE.
BEE, ne?
My views on BE.
Yeah.
Because you don't need BE and I don't need BE. The poor black don't need BE and the poor white don't need BE. But there are poor communities out there that doesn't have infrastructure and stuff. They need BE. So we need to channel the money there. But that's for next time. But This time, I just want to.
Let me start with my shout out.
Oh, shout out. We must not get shout out.
Sorry, I'm the one who got you carried
Listen,
away.
we're getting some good responses from the shout out, hey?
Okay, that's
People,
brilliant.
people are enjoying it. Yeah, it's just an opportunity for us to boost job seekers a bit, you know. So who's our next shout out?
That's awesome. Today we have Nonhlanhla Mavimbela. You know, also on the HR fraternity, and then she's got a diploma in HR, and then advanced diploma in HR, and she's also got Sage and on payroll. Now she understands. You see now
Does she want a job?
Yes.
I'm going to connect her. I've got a
she's
client
looking for a
who's
job
actually
because-
looking for that kind of person.
Yes. So she's been on learning and development with other companies, general HR support, HR business partner department. So she's quite a person who's, you know, with also I look at Sage. It's not everyone who understand that Sage and Pastel.
Just last week, I needed to find a person with Sage experience for a position in Johannesburg. So I'm going to find out today if that position is still
It's
available.
still available.
And if it is still available, I'll try to connect her, try to organize a interview for her.
Okay.
Yeah, well, let's look at
I think we
Nonhlanhla.
must just check on him.
Hi, my name is Nonhlanhla Mavimbela, an HR management graduate with distinctions and current HR intern. I'm passionate about employee engagement, recruitment, and performance management. I've gained valued hands-on experience across HR departments, from talent acquisition to employee relations. I bring dedication, confidentiality, and a people-first approach to any team that I will have a chance to join. I'm looking for an entry-level job that I can grow and contribute meaningfully. You can contact me at 078-150-0487. Thank you.
So, what are we talking about today, Meneer Nel?
Rethinking conflict, mediation as a strategic alternative. Rethinking conflict.
So, do you think mediation is a good alternative to a disciplinary hearing or to a
Well, let me
formal
ask you a
discipline?
question, Chaile.
Yeah.
In your experience, if an employer, let's say the owner of the company, the boss, gives a subordinate an instruction, and that employee turns around and says, I will not do it, blatantly, I will not do it, what do you think is going to happen in your experience?
In my experience, they will call SAPA to come and put this person in a hearing and chair the hearing, and then in the next 3 to 4 days.
I need to
they will-
correct there. I will call you to put the person in hearing and chair the hearing.
No. They will call me to come and chair the hearing. And then they will tell me exactly what happened, and they will want the results in the next few days.
That's typically what will happen.
That's a typical way of it happening.
But I want to ask you, isn't the traditional way of doing disciplinary action, like giving a warning or put someone in a hearing and who knows, maybe dismiss a person, isn't that a very artificial way of resolving actual disputes? Is there not more to a dispute than just me not following your instruction? It's a very unilateral side way of dealing with a dispute. I'm the boss, you didn't listen to me, I put you in a hearing, I fire you, there you go, you know? It doesn't really deal with the underlying issues.
Yeah, it doesn't. It doesn't. In all, when you look at all the elements, it doesn't deal with the underlying issues.
Because you replace that person with somebody else, and 6 months later you must fire that person too, because that person's also not listening to you.
And then that also affects the stability in terms of the team. You know, there are some businesses which believe that this is my team, I want to go far with this team, and in order for me to sustain this team, I have to do the right things. But there are some bosses, they just look at, this is a rotten potato, I have to get rid of it.
Yeah, it is very interesting. But you know, Chaile, take a guess. Okay, let me tell you this one. For the financial year 2024, there was 188,619 disputes referred to the CCMA. 188,619 disputes in 1 year. Take a guess, how many disputes was referred to the CCMA since 1996?
If there's 188 in
Just
one calendar
last year, 188,619 disputes refer to the CCMA 1 year. How many since day one, 1996?
Yeah, then it's millions and millions of.
Over 4 million disputes refer to the CCMA. That tells me there are issues in the workplace, Chaile. Bosses and the staff are fighting.
Too much.
Eh?
Too much. That's why we go in the CCMA like almost every second day. I was at the CCMA yesterday. When were you at the CCMA?
Pick a day. I'm there tomorrow again. It's like almost every day these days. But now I want to ask you, in your whole life, how many hearings and how many CCMA cases do you think you've done?
My first hearing, it was in 2015. So this is my 10th year now.
10 years, eh?
Yes,
Well done.
10 years in the game.
Well done.
It's a lot.
Can't even count anymore.
I can't even count.
Eh? I mean, you were there just yesterday at the CCMA,
Yes.
settling a dispute there.
Yes.
But you see, Tsepo, the traditional way of resolving disputes, give a person warning, put a person in a hearing, maybe dismiss the person, go to the CCMA. It's a very conflict-driven way of how to deal with disputes, okay? So let me give you a story. This week for me was all about mediation. I did mediation in 2 companies this week, but I want to talk about the one. Let me just comment on the second one quickly. You know, this employee just simply told me, I don't want to talk to you. I don't know if I want to talk about this. I've had enough. I think it's time for me to go. You know, eventually I had to milk it out of her, and I got the full story out of her. But you see, the thing here is, there's already a breakdown in this relationship. Now, I always say now that labor relations, the law is important, but it's first and foremost the relationship.
Fiduciary duty.
Fiduciary duty, that trust relationship. But let me tell you the real story. So, I got a phone call. I need to come and mediate between the employer. Now, in this case, the employer, there are 2 owners, a husband and his wife. Okay? And they're working wonderfully together. That's great. But
Nobody wins when the family feuds. But well, story for another day.
that's another day. But, so they have another employee. Now, this business is a very scientific kind of business. So there's a lot of mathematics involved and science with lighting and whatever the case may be. So this other employee, he doesn't actually know what he's doing in terms of his job role or his job title. You know, he's been there since early days of the forming of this business, and he sort of grew into everything. So he's like doing everything. So he's actually operating on a director's level already. You know, so practically he's very high, but in terms of his job title, which they still can't tell me what it is, but it seems like it's a fairly low blue-collar worker kind of title, besides the fact that he's getting paid and remunerated extremely well, okay? But anyway, so I get called in because last Friday, there was a discussion between him and the one owner, the wife now, about something. And Tsepo, it ended up in almost a physical fight. Now, he, as a sport, is doing kickboxing. So when there was a disagreement about some kind of scientific, factual thing, or whatever the case may be, he eventually told her, I will not do what you tell me. And he came up with his chest to her and started swinging his hands. It's like he wanted to physically assault her. But now here's the thing, she's also a kickboxer. So she came back with her chest too. So yeah, you had 2 kickboxers. You know, the one is the boss, the other one is not the boss. The other one is a servant wanting to hit each other.
EFC in that office.
So it ended up in a swearing match, and he just turned out, walked out, slammed the door, and he went home. But she accuses him. Now, I've been called to mediate. Now, one of the issues that came out now from her side is that She actually told me he is extremely intelligent.
Yes.
And then he agrees. He actually admits, yes, I am very intelligent. And then she said, but he's also very arrogant. And then he agrees, I am very arrogant. He will often sit around the table when they have meetings, whatever, they will ask people, can't you think for yourself? So he'll insult people, and he admits to it. And I'm like, you don't normally see a thief at the police station, do you?
Yeah.
The guy's actually agreeing to this. And you see, this is the thing. He works in a certain department. And then sometimes he will see people in another department making mathematical calculations about what they must do and whatever the case may be. Now, he works it out in his mind. He works in his mind. But listen, those guys are wrong. And then he'll like, guys, it's not going to work. And they get so upset with him for always interfering. And then and this is part of the issue. Then the boss is also like, but you work in that department, leave them alone. And then he's saying, no, but they're wrong. They're going to screw up the customer's orders. And you know what's the sad part is he's always right. He's right. He works the stuff out of his head. And then he can almost see there already, they're going to mess this thing up. So he interferes. And then he will tell him, you stupids, can't you think?
So the question remains, after everything now, I'm not fast forwarding your story, but now, after the 3 hours or so of mediation, is he willing to change?
Well, this is the thing. Now, in the mediation process, we obviously get to the core of the issue in terms of the employer. Now, you need to, now I know you know this, but humans think or operate on two levels, the emotional level, but also the logical level. Now, this is a situation whereby it seems like most people primarily, naturally operate out of the emotional level. We don't feel this, we don't feel that. In politics, for instance, is the same. We feel we belong to the correct political party. Tomorrow we feel we don't belong to the correct political party. There's not always a lot of logic behind it. It's feelings. We support people based on our feelings and emotions. But with him now, it seems like the other way around. It seems like he's operating entirely on the logical level. Now, I'm not saying he doesn't have emotions, but I do think you get those kind of people. They are like robots. And actually, I had a friend, a fellow student, when I studied theology a long time ago when I was young. We had a fellow student, I'm not going to say his name, and he was one of those people, but he was a lovely person, but he was just always right. In Standard 5, I mustn't say this on air, but in Standard 5, that's now today's grade 7, for a scientific project, he built a dish that came out of his yard, out of the ground, like this, and it literally, fraudulently, it could catch Mnet. So he could see Mnet. He figured this thing out. And when you talk to a kind of person, it is bloody difficult because you always correct you, and you are always wrong, and he is always right. You get that 0.5% of the population. They just know everything about everything. And this is one of those people. He is just right. And he's more intelligent than the employer. He's often right. And actually, the employer said she often goes to him to help with the calculations because he knows. So anyway, part of this process now is she needs to explain the issues she's got. So her issues was mostly focusing on the fact that he's actually just arrogant and he's plainly disrespectful. And it is like that. Maybe I'm getting old now, I grew up in the young days where you actually respect your boss. I will never tell my boss. I will never do this to my boss. First of all, I'll be smacked. I'm not a big fighter.
No, but there are people like that, aren't there?
Yeah, there are people like that, but you don't do that. There's a line. If you get it's fine to get comfortable with your boss, depending on the work circumstances. Maybe you grew maturity and you were elevated in terms of your job function, even if it is not formalized. You get to that level where you can comfortably talk to each other. Like you and myself. We've got a very good relationship. But there's still a line. You can't turn around one and say to him, man, you bloody poople.
Yeah, no.
You see, and obviously there's context to that too, but there are certain lines you don't cross. That was her issue. And his issue is that he was everything is about a certain customer who wanted something, but now because of his position in the company, informally. Most of the clients know him, and he's got their numbers on the phone. So even though this customer wanted something done, it's got nothing to do with him and his department, but something with another department, the customer phoned him personally. So he was busy talking to the customer, and according to him now, he then said he's going to transfer this job to the other department with the other guys. They are actually specialists who deals with this. And eventually she saw him on the phone with the customer, and she's like, but listen, that's not your department. So she called him in to the office. What are you doing? Why are you talking to the customer? But now the problem is she didn't first find out what is going on. So he wasn't aware that she was also busy dealing with the customer, with the other department. And she wasn't aware that he was also dealing with the customer. And she's not aware of the discussion, the conversation, how he was trying to transfer this customer to the right department. So they then met in the office. And that is where the shouting started. But before that even, he was walking in the passageway, and all the staff's offices are there, and they've got windows, so everybody can see what's going on. So she was shouting at him and swearing at him already, while he was like 10 meters away from her. And he's just like, why are you now swearing at me? While he's on the phone. And then she called him to the office, and then they had this almost boxing match in the office while the customer's on speakerphone. So everybody can see how she's shouting and swearing at him, and the customer can hear on the phone too. So his issue is, but listen, if you want to sort me out, do it privately. Don't swear at me in front of the other staff.
Because I will dikkers duplice you.
I will dikkers duplice you. You see. And another thing is, he wants to feel valued, that his opinion matters.
Yes.
So when the owner will very easily, if something doesn't work, just override and say, do it like this now. But now the thing is, he knows what he's doing. You can't just, after 10 years of doing it a certain way, just because you can't get it right now, we must change the method. Fine, if you want to change the method, let's consult first, because this is science, and I know the science, you don't necessarily know the science. But this is the thing, she knows things which he doesn't know.
So they complement each other in a way. But
There are actually reasons behind her changing the methodology too, because there are certain certifications that they have in terms of the products they use, whatever. So he can't just improvise the way he wants. Otherwise, they may lose their licenses. And she knows that, which he won't know. So then I sit there like, they both actually have a point. They're both actually right. It is just that they don't talk to each other.
that's what I'm saying. They complement each other very well, but they must just sit down and then have a civilized conversation and then draft some sort of a plan whereby this is the direction we're going to take. You come with your skill, I come with my skill.
And this is now, so then eventually you ask the people, okay, so what do you think? What are the solutions? And I will talk to him. I will say, listen, there is no world where you can be arrogant the way you are, because other people also complain about the same thing about him. Okay? Because it breaks down relationships. There's no world where you'll keep your job if you continue going down this road. You need to respect your seniors. And I know they say we're not here to make friends, but the reality of the matter is your employer, your line manager, they actually want to feel. They won't admit it because we're not soft, we're tough.
Yes.
But on a psychological level, employers want to feel they're the boss. If you are promoted and you have staff under you, you want to feel you're the boss. We're humans. That's how it is. We're not equipment. We're not machines. So you're going to have to make sure that you also minister to her emotional level. You cannot want to physically assault her. You cannot tell her, I will not do what you want to do, because ultimately you will lose the fight. They can maybe unfairly dismiss you. You go to the CCM, who knows, maybe you win the arbitration or get a settlement or whatever the case may be, but you're going to be out of a job, and you will probably not find the kind of job you have now with the money and the benefits you have. Okay? So you need to realize that. You're going to have to change. And secondly, what she would then say, she understands that when you have a dispute or disagreement with somebody, you can't swear in front of other people.
Yes.
You need to do it more privately and more formally, maybe, call somebody in and actually have a discussion. And yes, she should swear less, Now you have these solutions that they arrived at. And this is a nice part. Now, there's an agreement I draw up. It's a documentary agreement where both parties will agree to changing their behavior in certain aspects. And then we shake hands and then we continue with our work life.
So now there is an agreement in place. What happens if one now act against or outside that agreement? What if now she loses the isht and then start swearing at him, or he goes to his ways of being arrogant and interfering with other people's?
You see, Tsepo, to answer that question, we have to understand why do we do mediation instead of disciplinary action as an alternative. You see, misconduct in the workplace is like a tree with fruit. What a lot of employers do is they will unilaterally pluck the fruit because it's bad fruit. They don't like the fruit, okay? And that is where you give a warning or put somebody in hearing, just dismiss him. That is a way of getting rid of the problem. But now, next season, the fruit is back. Or you replace him with another person and the same fruit prevails. You have to get to the root of the problem, which is the real underlying human relational issues. Deal with the roots. And this is where mediation is coming in. It deals with those roots. But there's a bit of an elephant in the room here. There's a bit of an Achilles heel, because just imagine, like you and I saying, eventually you do put this person in disciplinary hearing. And then it came out there's an agreement and you as the employer broke the agreement.
Yes.
So there's a huge amount of commitment needed from the employer in this process.
Okay.
You see. So you have to be serious. Mediation is actually a very serious process. It's much, in a way, it's much more challenging than just put somebody in hearing and dismiss him. Because then you're just getting rid of a face. Okay? Because mediation, if you say let's do mediation, then it means you as an employer, you are genuinely interested in the organizational culture. You are genuinely interested in fixing the relationships issues. And you have an understanding that human relations, it's more than just laws.
And you want to sustain that.
You want to sustain
the
that.
team and the culture.
And then you also realize, but listen, me as an employer, I'm not perfect either, and I need to change. So mediation is actually, in a way, the solution to dispute resolution. Often it is. Look, you get those employees, they're just assholes, okay? They're not going to change. They're just plain difficult, and there's nothing the employer did wrong. But normally with misconduct, or often there's a bit more wider context, which includes probably the employee's personal circumstances, his upbringing, his personality, his character, yes, but also you. And your circumstances, your upbringing, your managerial style as manager or business owner now, your professionalism, your own skills. You know, that's also an important part of this mix of misconduct in the workplace. And if you commit to mediation, then we're going to talk about that. You see, and you as an employer must say, okay, if I want to sort out somebody, let's have a meeting with some coffee and talk about this. And I will also commit to the process. But if you're the kind of employer who don't really care about relationships, yes, don't do this. Don't do this, okay? Because you're going to mess this up. Because you're going to go to CCMA one day and say, listen, yeah, we had an agreement, okay, but I recorded you, you started first.
So, I think, yes, for employers, it's very good because, you know, sustaining the culture and everything. But some employees are very spiteful. I'm not talking bad about employees, but in my experience, like yesterday, the case that I did at CCMA, this lady started crying in front of the commissioner that the manager was ill-treating her. But she never raised that issue and submitted grievance and what. But now in front of the commissioner, she's playing victim. You see now some...
But can I also comment on that?
Yes.
Let's look at this from a mediation perspective. Okay? Now, when it comes to mediation, we acknowledge that humans operate in an environment that is more than just governed by laws. So if you look at grievances, really, I know the commissioner and the law speaks about grievances and these kind of things in a very cold and a technical way, but practically, which employee wants to submit a grievance against the employer? I've never in my life actually formally submitted a grievance against any managers or employers I worked for. And you know some of those employers. I mean, which employer, honestly, you are scared to do that. You're going to be bullied. So are we really, on an emotional level, are we blaming employees for not submitting grievances? I know the law is like, why don't you submit a grievance? Really, Commissioner, why don't you submit a grievance? Okay. And then secondly, if you look at the case now, this employee filed an unfair labor practice dispute in terms of probation.
Yes.
Now, how will you be treated? If you sign a contract, you're on probation for 3 months. For 3 months, the employer does nothing formal. There's no, this employer at one stage did KPI review with scorecard and stuff. But this manager, her line manager, did it one-sided. Never asked her for her views. Never let her score herself. She doesn't even know about this. The manager submitted it, and I speak under correction, but now pay or whatever the benefits or whatever, are also dependent on the score rating. Never speak to her about this. Yeah, there's a formal email here, hey, you must do this or do that, whatever the case may be. Now, 3 months later, you didn't perform. Now, let's talk about mediation. I'm talking about this human relational thing. I'm talking about this apple tree now with the roots. Now you get to the CCMA. So in my preparation with that client in advance, I told them, listen, guys, you need to formalize these things. Acknowledge the other person. If I have a problem with your performance, call the person in. Let's talk about your performance. Let them not find out the day you want to extend probation or fire them.
Yeah, and then
come on, isn't it normal?
In her view, she's like, the manager was happy, everything was thumbs up.
Well, exactly.
But now she's surprised to say,
no,
we are extending you now.
No, exactly.
No,
in a way, the company's got the law on their side.
Yes.
Okay, because she didn't submit agreements. It's the first time we hear about this. But from a mediatory perspective, these are the issues we talk about. Then we'll ask the manager, so how will you feel if you go work for a company, they don't actually formally talk to you, and 3 months later, things are just coming to mind. You know what is something interesting I noticed? I never say this, but in my heart, I'm like, the abuser becomes the victim. How often you find managers that will use us and we fire staff and go to CCM and fight the battles. 6 months later, they will phone me. My boss wants to fire me now. I'm going to stand on my rights. My boss did not call me in and let me know about my poor performance. Now my boss wants to fire me for my poor performance. I'm like, in my heart, that's exactly the thing you did with your staff, isn't it? So what goes around comes around.
And then
Okay, Tshepo, I just want to quickly go now.
Yes.
The benefits of mediation. Okay. Number one, it's more cost effective.
Okay.
It's cost effective in the sense of replacement costs. I mean, you're going to have to retrain the new people. And if it's a situation whereby the employer has a role to play in this misconduct or poor performance, whatever the case may be, all you're doing is you're plugging the fruit. The new person's going to have the same problem. And the employer's going to have the same problem with the new person, because the problem is not the person, the problem is this side, you see. And also there's money. I mean, now you go through the dispute resolution process, hearing, there's time, go to CCMA, it costs money. Sometimes these cases take 10 years to go through all the courts or whatever the case may be. And it costs a fortune, So it's cost effective. Number two, it's a faster way of finding a resolution. I mean, we sit around the table and we get commitments from people, you see. There are agreements, and we get to the core of the problem. We get to the root. And thirdly, it's more confidential, keeping in mind that arbitration is with prejudice. It means that both the employer and the employee is now open in the public space. And it is as simple as any person in South Africa or in the world, I suppose, downloading the CCMA app, typing up employees' ID number in there, or the employer's name, and get information about the dispute they had. So even from employer perspective, and the legal fraternity ourselves, we write case law reviews on what employers and employees are up to at the CCMA and in the courts. Then fourthly, it's a more informal way of dealing. You don't have to go out in the public sphere like we already said. And I think most importantly, it preserves the relationship.
Yeah.
It's a better way of dealing with things. You deal with something before it becomes a big problem. And then lastly, it actually improves the organizational culture. But this message is really for those employers who wants to focus on creating a better culture in the workplace. And what it comes down to in a nutshell is, and once again, employers use a lot of assets, computers, cars, and whatever, and we service and maintain those assets. But when it comes to humans, we never ask ourselves, okay, what is this human asset? You know, they have feelings, emotions, you know, they have ambitions. And also in this case, which I didn't say, apparently some time back already, they told him he will have shares one day in the company, which never, I suppose, happened. Now, you see how these things builds up. It builds up, and one day I will tell you, I won't do it.
Yes.
And then you fire me. And everybody scratch head afterwards. How did we get here? Because we're talking about humans now. So that's it for today, Tsepo.
Thank you very much. And then our job, what do they call it?
Yes, we have job review now.
The job review, yes.
So this is where we every week advertise fresh vacancies in our network. So have a look out. There's also links at the bottom. There's a lot of links at the bottom. But open the description. There's a button there that says more. Just keep on clicking on the more. You'll see a lot of links. There's jobs there. Nonhlanhla CVs in there if you want an employer or have a bit of a go at it in terms of an interview, whatever the case may be. And some other goodies too. But just let me say also, if you are an HR manager or some kind of leader in the company, you'll also find a worksheet in the description. This worksheet is for you to use as a free tool to train managers in the company, supervisors. It actually asks questions about this podcast. So if people need to look and watch the podcast, then there are questions that deals with the topic of discussion in this podcast. And you'll find yourself over time. There's a lot of free training in here. You'll actually get to know the labor laws quite well by just, looking at the podcast and then also printing the sheet and start letting your supervisors fill it in. It's a lot of fun. It's a fantastic way of getting some free labor law training out there. But anyway, that's it, Tsepo.
Thanks for watching. See you next time.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Good morning, Harmony people. Let's have a look at some of the vacancies posted nationwide on our Harmony People's Network this week. First up, in Randfontein, Watercare Mining is looking for a payroll and HR administrator. Companies in both Kempton Park and Cape Town is looking for HRBP. There's an opening for a junior accountant in Bryanston, and a company based in Durban is looking for a payroll administrator. For the full information of the mentioned positions, how to apply, as well as more available positions, find the vacancy link in the description. You will also find a link to a useful video on how to compose a winning CV and have a successful interview. Tune in again next week for more Harmony vacancies.